Welcome to another workshop offered by the University of Kentucky and the Office of Work, Life, and Benefits. We are always offering workshops geared towards our working parents in their efforts to raise their children on their parenting journey. And today, our topic, we're talking about teen and young adult drivers in safety. And so our speaker today is Zinnia Robinson, and she's with SafeKids Fayette. And so she's going to walk us through some wonderful strategies and tips, not only for our young teens and adults, but also for us, the parents. Thank you so much, Zinnia, for being with us today.
Thank you, Zeta. I hope I said your name correctly, but I wanted to thank everybody that's here joining us today. Hi, Jesse. I hope this information will help you. Um, Under Your Influence is a program through Impact Teen Drivers. Safe Kids Fayette County is a partner through this initiative where it's a program that helps raise awareness on the best way to work with our children and our youth on, being safe drivers and being safe while not just as a driver, but also as a passenger. Today, we're going to focus on safe driving skills and ways to talk to your teen as they're learning how to drive. And the material that we'll talk about today will also apply to everybody, not just new and inexperienced drivers or those getting ready to get their permit, but also for all current drivers. So there's a lot of content, there's a lot of videos, and there are some personal stories. Some of the videos I will probably fast forward because I don't think we'll have time to watch all of them. But I wanted you all to know that you can always just slow me down, raise your hand, put comments in the chat box if there's a question that you would like me to answer. Okay, so moving on. Just a couple of data. Safe Kids Fayette County is a childhood injury prevention program, and the programs that we do is data driven. So we don't just come up with topics to figure out to talk about. What we do is we look at data, and if it looks like something that's going to affect us and the children in our community, we implement that program. So obviously, I'm going to have to talk about some numbers each year. These numbers are a couple years old. If you want to look at them, it's kind of shocking and kind of sad because a lot of these deaths and injuries could have been prevented. Some notable points is that half of teen driving fatalities are those of the passengers that were being driven by a teen driver. Parents are the number one influencer of all teens' attitudes and behaviors. A lot of us as parents may not realize that, but we are being watched. We are being watched. We are actually, looked up to. Children will base their behaviors and the decisions that they make for themselves based on what we're doing. So we are being watched. GDL laws for those of you that are not aware, but GDL stands for Graduated Driver's Licensing. These laws have been established by states. Each state has their individual guidelines, and there'll be a few slides here in just a little bit that will focus on the Kentucky GDL laws. Since the GDL laws were formed, teen fatalities and injuries have been reduced by as much as 40%, which is wonderful. And that's the reason why the laws were created. Teens are 4 times more likely to be involved in a fatal crash if they choose to drive at night. And then 75% of those teen crashes have nothing to do at all with the drugs or alcohol. More than 3 teen passengers in a car driven by an inexperienced driver can quadruple that teen's risk of a fatal crash. So these are statistics that drive the reason why GDL laws were created. We're going to go through this video, and it's a very long video, but I will stop it at some point. But you'll see. It's a parent talking about being a parent while driving.
I love my kids. And let's be real, we parents know raising teens is really hard. I'm constantly reminding my kids how to drive and ride safely. But do they listen? Of course not. Classic teenagers. I tell them, don't eat while driving. I say, no talking on the phone.
Mom, Mom.
You know, you got to pay attention to what you're doing. I just don't know where they get it from. As you just saw, it's so easy to fall into the habit of do as I say, not as I do. It didn't work for us when we were kids. So why do we think it will work on our teens? I'm a parent, you're a parent, and it can be overwhelming thinking about all the different things that go into having our children learn to drive. Did you know that car crashes are the #1 killer of teens in America? Particularly those caused by reckless and distracted driving. Driving too fast and anything that takes your hands off the wheel, eyes off the road, or mind off the drive, that's reckless and distracted driving. And guess what? 75% of those situations happen to teens who aren't under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Imagine your child losing their life or taking someone else's. How would your life change? It happens every day and it can happen to you. As a parent myself, I know how devastating it would be. But the good news is, it doesn't matter what we did yesterday. It's what we start doing today. 100% of crashes due to reckless and distracted driving are preventable. One of the ways states try to help parents prevent these horrible crashes is through graduated driver licensing laws, GDL. These regulations cover the different stages of obtaining a driver's license. It's about slowly stepping up the freedom behind the wheel to go along with gaining the needed experience to be responsible. They reduce the two biggest risk factors for new teen drivers: nighttime driving, where it's harder to see and react, and where there are more impaired and drowsy drivers, and having multiple teen passengers in a vehicle, a recipe for distraction. Our teens are 4 times more likely to be involved in a fatal crash at night. And the same is true if there are 3 or more teens in the car. I'm sure some of you may have heard the term GDL, but how many of us
She didn't just walk in and light up a room. She lit up the world. She was always smiling, and she had the biggest dimples ever. And it didn't matter if you were, 3 years old or the janitor at her high school. She was friends with everyone.
Yeah, me and Ryan were close because I would take her home from school. I would take her to school on Wednesdays. I took her to cheer practice. We would go to the mall every time I got paid, and I would always blow my paycheck with her.
My girls, they wanted to hang out with each other over friends.
Yeah, I think she looked up to me.
Riley was the driver, and Abby, her friend, was in the passenger, and then Ryan was sitting in the back seat. They get in the car and they start heading home. And Riley's friend grabbed her phone and started playing songs. Got about a half a mile, and there had been an accident down the road, which had backed up traffic.
As we were coming up over the hill, I saw a white car stopped, and so I immediately slammed on my brakes.
But when the next car was coming, the girl was on speakerphone with her mom and was looking down at her phone. So when she came up over the hill, she wasn't paying attention to see that the traffic stopped. And when she finally looked up and slammed on the brakes, it was too late. And she hit Ryan directly at 34 miles per hour.
All I cared about was getting Ryan out of the car. And so she was pressed up against the back passenger seat, and all I cared about was getting that stuff of her.
Riley had called me and she was hysterical.
And I was just kind of screaming in the middle of the road, saying that my sister was in the car, and I felt like no one was listening to me.
The scene was chaotic. When I ran up, I saw Ryan on the ground.
One of the deputy sheriffs calls me and he tells me that they're life-flighting Ryan. When I got into the emergency room, they let me go see Riley. When I saw Riley, she was on a stretcher, and the deputy sheriff and the chaplain came. And I'm like, why the chaplain? See, in the movies, you just know it's not good.
And I asked, I was like, is my sister okay? And is she breathing? And he said yes, but it turns out she died on impact.
When Ryan was around, it was never quiet. It was all the time, non-stop. And now it's just quiet. And I don't like it.
As a parent, I can barely imagine the pain and suffering Ryan's family and friends endure every day of their lives, especially when there's so many places that a safer decision could have changed the outcome. Look, I know it's not easy out there. Getting our kids to all their events while juggling our responsibilities at home and work and our sanity. I know Colleen would gladly have dealt with an extra year of learning and driving experience for Riley in order to have Ryan back. We can make a positive impact on the lives of those around us starting today. Talk to your kids. We can't protect them without being fully transparent and keeping dialogue open and ongoing. Teens need to feel empowered and trusted, just like the rest of us. Help them believe in these things, not just do what they're told. Role model. Our kids have been watching us since they were forward facing in a car seat, and they pick up on every little detail of what we do as a driver or passenger in the car. Drive the way you want your teen to drive. Your actions speak volumes. Wear your seatbelt. Put away all distractions like phones, food, makeup before you start the car. Follow all traffic laws and drive at a speed that is safe for the conditions. Know and enforce your state's graduated driver licensing laws. Make sure your teens understand them and talk to other parents about them as well to spread the word in your community. Teach your kids that they have a voice. We all think about peer pressure when it comes to drugs and alcohol. It's just as important when making decisions about getting into and using a vehicle. If something feels wrong, your teen should feel empowered to speak up. And if there are other drivers or passengers that don't respond, they should feel empowered to stop and get out of the car. We all want to give our kids freedom and encourage them to grow into thriving adults. Driving is a privilege, and the type of freedom that comes with being a new driver, well, that's something we must help them earn. We can tell them what to do until we're blue in the face, but none of it will stick if we don't back it up with our actions. Your teen is under your influence. Using these simple everyday tips, you can keep your family and everyone else safe on the road. Together, we can stop the #1 killer of young people, preventable car crash. For more information, please visit impactteendrivers.org.
Okay, that was a very emotional story, but it's a necessary story that needs to be told because it is one of many. Just a quick recap. Ryan was 13 years old. She was riding in the backseat of a car that was driven by her older sister, Riley. Sitting in the front passenger seat was a friend of Riley's. I think her name was Abby. So there were only 3 teens in the car. And Riley and Ryan were related, they're sisters. So there was really only one unrelated person in the car with the 3 of them. The reason I bring that up is because it will also come into play later on when we talk about the GDL law here in Kentucky. So what I wanted to emphasize and just to help kind of point out is as experienced as we may think our children are when we give them the keys, there's nothing that can replace time spent behind the wheel. Even to this day, I don't feel comfortable 100%. Now that snow has started to come down, we had some icy roads. It can get pretty dicey out on the road. There's a lot of things that come into play when you are behind that steering wheel. And yes, it is convenient when you have a teenager that starts to drive. It helps you, as the lady mentioned earlier. It might help you with some errands that might need to be run, be made, or some other younger siblings that need to be taken from one place to another. But do you all remember what happened in that car accident? What caused the crash? Riley was distracted, wasn't she? She was distracted. She thought she had everything under control. And the nature of the road, she was approaching a hill. She knew that there was something going on, but didn't know why the traffic was backed up. And there was by the time she figured out what was going on, she got hit. She got distracted. She looked down. So that brings us to the term distracted driving. It comes in many forms, doesn't it? So one of them, if you see these icons, the first one, it's going to be visual. An example of a visual distraction is anything that will take our eyes off the road. The other type of distraction is called a manual distraction, and that is when our hands are taken away from the task at hand. So when we are driving, our eyes need to be on the road, our hands need to be on the steering wheel, not on food, not on your coffee, not on changing the channels on your radio, not on giving your child a toy in the back seat who's fussy. It is to maintain visual on the road and having your hands on the steering wheel or your shift, whatever you need to use your hands for. Third type of distraction is cognitive. And when we say the word cognitive, we think about anything and everything that we might be thinking about. It could be you're getting ready to do a presentation, you're on your way to work, and you're trying to solve problems, or you had a fight with your spouse, or you had a really bad fight with your child earlier that morning, and it's left you emotionally, just racked up. You're trying to figure things out. Anything that is going to take your mind away from the task of driving is considered cognitive. And then the other one is auditory, and that could be anything from music that is way too loud, kids that are fighting in the back seat, somebody that's yelling at you, someone on voice, Now, when you combine all four of those, visual, manual, cognitive, and auditory, if all those are happening while you're driving, your risk of being in a car crash or a collision increases exponentially. So we need to take all this into account, because we need to be able to pay attention. If there's a fire truck, you want to be able to hear them. So you don't want or a police car, you don't want your music to be too loud. Because if there is an emergency vehicle that's coming your way and you don't hear them coming, you run the risk of not only being in their way, but also you might be in a collision with them for some reason if you continue driving and there's a situation where you can't be avoided. Does anybody have any questions? I feel like I'm talking to myself. Everybody okay out there? So this graph, some more data, just kind of illustrates how the risk of fatal injury or crash related to the number of teen passengers in a car. So if you look, the relative risk will increase the more teens are in the car with that teen driver. But look at this last column. If you have an adult and they picked, this is all research, guys, so I'm not making fun of anybody that's younger or older than 35 years old, and I don't know why they picked that number, but based on the data, if there is an adult that is over 35 years old with that teen driver, look how much it decreases the relative risk of fatal crash. So you think maybe we are a little bit more mature and able to handle being with a teen driver at that age. So these are all numbers, and it's based on research. That is why the Kentucky GDL, well, you'll see it here in just a bit, has a limit on the number of unrelated unrelated passengers while a teen driver is behind the steering wheel. This is called what do they call it? They call it the lethal wheel of lethal. It's a little thing that we use when we teach this class in person. And what it does is we hand these out to students. We do these classes for teenagers as well. So if you would like us to do a presentation for your child's high school, just let us know. We'll schedule it. But anyway, what it does is on the outside wheel, it has, if you look, the red shade and the yellow shade, and then the number of passengers in that car. The yellow means that the teen driver is driving during the day. And the red one means the teen driver is driving at night. And then you have the number of passengers, no passenger, all the way up to 3 passengers. The next part of the wheel will talk about the different type of risky behavior that the driver is participating in while they're driving. And then the inner wheel describes another type of distraction that increases the risk of a crash, of a lethal crash. So what we do with the kids, unfortunately, the link that I had didn't work, and then it would take us out of this PowerPoint for us to go online. But what we would do is we would tell the students to pick, are you driving at night or during the day? And if they'll say at night, we go to the red part. And then I would turn it to 2 passengers and no distractions at all. So what this does is it tells you that you still have a risk of over 500%. There's a number on here. But this is just to illustrate that the more distractions that are causing the driver to get their attention away from the road, it increases their chances of a fatal crash. So when do you think driving is more dangerous? This is the time when I ask the audience to type it in the chat box if you want to participate. At dusk, okay? During the day? At night? Okay. It is more dangerous to drive at night at dusk. And if you look at these photos, you can give a hint. It gives a hint as to why. This first one right here, the top left photo, illustrates driving at night. It looks like the car might even have high beams on, but let's do the video. Depending on your age, I know me as I'm getting much older, I have a much harder time driving at night because of the way the light might reflect from other cars that are coming towards me, and you have limited visibility. What can happen while you are driving at night that you may not see before it actually gets in front of you? You all want to put it in the chat box? I'll show you in this video down here. Do you see the animal? Do you all notice that there are also people out on the sidewalks walking? You may not see them, but there could be pedestrians. There could be animals that come out in front of you. And that's when the animals come out, isn't it? Is it nighttime? Such as deer. How many of you have ever hit a deer while you were driving? Or run into one or almost missed one? This season right now, too, it's deer season. I think this weekend, or maybe this past weekend was opening weekend for deer hunting. So it's that time of year, there's going to be animals out and about. And then what else is happening at night? People are out celebrating and partying, and they're just going to be driving recklessly. This video up here in the top right illustrates just a police officer that's pulling someone over for probably impaired driving. So you're not only is visibility going to be limited, you've got limited visibility, you've got animals hanging out at night, coming out of the woods and getting into the road, but you also have impaired drivers. And one last thing, what do you think this last video illustrates? Tired at night. So you've got four main things while driving at night. You've got limited visibility, you've got impaired drivers, you have creatures that are coming out, and then at nighttime, that's mostly people, it's time for rest. So it increases your chances of being in a collision at night. So no, driving at night is not the best scenario for an inexperienced young driver. Okay. So we're going to start talking about the Kentucky graduated driver licensing. For a better comprehensive list of these laws and guidelines and the steps to take, you will want to go to this website. You can just type in drive.ky.gov and it will take you to a menu, or you can do /drivers/pages. I think you're going to get this presentation, so you will see this. So there are three different stages. There's going to be the learner permit, the intermediate phase, and then the full driver's license phase. For phase one, a new law was enacted earlier this year. Students as early as young as 15 years old may apply for their permit license, for the permit phase. They have up to 180 days. They have 180 days to practice their skills and to be proficient, to just get out there. There is a requirement of minimum 60 hours practice time that you have to log in, that your child has to log in, and 10 of those must be at night. The more, the better. The more time they have to practice, the better. During this permit phase, that driver must be accompanied by a licensed driver who is over 21 years old. And while they are driving, they may have one unrelated person under the age of 20 riding in the back seat. They cannot be riding in the front seat, and they cannot be riding with that permit driver without a 21-year-old riding with them. They cannot drive between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. And the moving violations, it's considered, if they obtain a moving violation, any type of, traffic stop where they run a stoplight or any kind of, citation, that 180-day waiting period starts over. So it's pretty strict, but they can actually start at 15 years. When this law first came, we got a lot of calls of a lot of folks that were concerned. Why are they letting kids out on the street at 15? Well, in a way, it is frightening, but in another way, because they're starting earlier, it allows them a little bit more time to practice. But remember, they still have to be accompanied by a licensed driver who is over 21 years old. They can't drive on their own until they're older. So what this does is it gives them an extra year of practice behind the wheel before they're allowed to go to the next phase. Does anybody have questions about that? Ms. Beatty put in the links. Thank you for doing that. And it's very comprehensive. It's really good. You can even upload the whole manual on there. Okay, so the next phase is step 2, which is called the intermediate phase. In order to proceed to the intermediate phase, the teen needs to be at least 16 years. So, your son turned 15 last month. Okay, bless you, Ms. Holly. Yes, they can start. You have to be the one to sign. There's also paperwork that you must sign. But before they can even go to the next phase, they have at least 16 years. They have to be 16 years old. So that automatically requires them 1 whole year of practice. So then they can take the road test, as long as they meet the other previous requirements. Once they take the road test, if they pass it, they will get an actual license that has a sticker on it. If they fail that first time, that road test, they have to wait another 7 days to retake it. And then another requirement is they must take an education training. Some schools will offer this. The online, when you go to the website, it'll give you opportunities of receiving this driver education training, and also some private driving schools will do it as well. Some schools have permitted us to do this training that I'm giving you right now. This one by Impact Teen Driver is for the parents specifically, but there are two or three different modules that we've also taught that will qualify for them to receive that required education training. So depending on the program that they're in, for example, we've worked with some of the vocational schools that have had us come on site to teach this class. Not the one that you all are receiving, another one that's specifically for the teens that will qualify for that. Again, another 180 days, and they still cannot drive between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. And again, if they're under the age of 18, they're still limited to one unrelated person in the car with them. After completing their course at GDL course, and they've held their intermediate license for a full 180 days without any type of citations or violations, then they will be eligible to apply and schedule a full for the full unrestricted license. And then they will be given a temporary license, which is kind of printed out until their card arrives. So here's some more links that Ms. Beatty has put in the chat box for you all to use. Does anybody have any questions till we look at and listen to another story with Hunter? Okay. And yes, there's also a vision test. I didn't make a bullet point for that one, but there's also a vision test, which is now required for everybody, you and I as well. When we go to renew our license, we also have to have a statement either from our physician or our ophthalmologist or optometrist, and bring our glasses. So you'll hear about that as well. And I think the real ID was at 8 years, 10 years. So I can't remember when I expire, but when I do expire, we have to remember that that's also one of the newest laws, is you have to have passed a vision test. Okay. This is about a boy named Hunter. He's an 8th grader, and he's a passenger in a car driven by a 17-year-old with a provisional license, an intermediate license.
My son, Hunter, growing up, he was just very affectionate, very, very kind and gentle soul.
He was an amazing kid. He was well behaved.
Hunter was the kind of kid that like a lot of people would want to be like. We absolutely love spending time with our family.
Our family did everything together. We vacationed together. We ate together. We played together. I mean, my brothers were my best friends growing up. Always outdoors, always looking for something fun to do.
He brought the adventure out in me.
We call it the Huck Finn life, where he just played on the river, played in the wilderness all summer long.
Go camp up by the falls, go to the lake. Pretty much anything and everything outdoors.
You could find the little things and turn it into some kind of adventurous activity. He was doing backflips off of stuff before I was willing to jump off of that same rock or boat.
He was always telling me he wanted to be a rally driver in Australia, and he wanted to have his own little restaurant called Hunters, To make you crack up at any time. You never knew what to expect from him, really.
We would lock each other out of the house, and one time I had to get ready for work and I was almost late. So I actually had to pop off my screen to my house and pull him out of the window so that I could get in. But we were doing that stuff all the time.
My fondest memory of Hunter was actually when we were leaving to go to basic training. And he came up to me and he wrapped his little arms around me and gave the biggest hug. And he said, I love you.
He invited me on the camping trip. I told him I couldn't make it, but I told him, you know what, I'll see you right when you come back, you know?
Okay, I don't know what happened.
And
Sorry.
I never got to see him.
On August 9th, 2009, Troy and I and Kylie and her husband were away at a family wedding. We were driving home and my cell phone rang and it was our son, Jaden. And he said, Mom, somebody here needs to talk to you.
It's my captain at work, and he told me that my hunter had been in an accident. And I asked him, where was he? He said, he's at the corners.
I remember Troy telling me that there had been an accident and that Hunter didn't make it. And the first thought that went through my head is, how could this be? This has to be this joke. This couldn't have happened. I broke down right away.
I didn't want to believe it.
Hunter was a passenger in a car that was driven by a 17-year-old boy who had his provisional license for a very short time. They were on a windy mountain road, and as teenage boys do, they were egging him on to drift around a corner. So he tried to drift around a corner, lost control,
And spun around and hit a tree, unfortunately, right on the passenger side, right in Hunter's seat. He was killed instantly.
and everybody else pretty much walked away.
I found out shortly after that the driver was messing around. It was his fault that my brother's not here anymore. But he's not a bad kid. He just was distracted. He got distracted by the other kids in the car. He wanted to have some fun. He wanted to be the cool older brother. And that unfortunately ended in a tragedy.
Just having your best friend just gone, just taken from you. You'll never get used to that.
One thing we never thought to talk to Hunter about was being a good passenger.
How to act appropriately and not distract the driver.
He was in 8th grade. His friends weren't even driving. There was no reason for me to think that he would be in a car with a provisional license.
He would tell me to go fast or go around, try to drift the car around the corner, and we would laugh and we would drive on. Never thought that he would be doing that to a provisional driver, and the provisional driver would actually do it.
That's the hardest for me with my son, Thane. It's really hard to raise him with the memory and the love of Hunter that I have. And it makes me proud that he can point out Uncle Scooby in pictures, and I've made books of him.
I think about it all the time, what it would be if he was still here.
Every day.
We've always been with each other through everything. So to not have Hunter there was very hard for us because everything that we had been through in life, we were always all there together.
It's definitely that missing link that will never be filled.
There's this big empty space that has a big chunk of my heart that's not there anymore.
Parents need to realize how lives can change if they don't follow the laws of the provisional license. Had that father not made that decision that day, my son would still be here.
And I see such a simple choice that took my brother's life. Makes you realize why those rules are in place.
As parents, sometimes it's tough to tell your kids no. It's a lot easier to have your child mad at you for not allowing them to drive friends than it is to not have them here.
My own provisional driving experience was really based on my parents.
We never allowed our other son to drive friends when he had his provisional license. So, parents really need to step up and teach their children how to be good passengers and talk to them about that.
You cannot ever replace Hunter. You will never be able to.
Nothing ever prepares you for the death of a child.
There's nothing to fix the loss of a child. Nothing at all.
Okay, so two things I do want to reiterate or to emphasize after seeing this really sad story, which again is one of many, is the driver if you remember, was only 17 years old. And in Kentucky, I'm not sure where this was, but in Kentucky, a 17-year-old in we call it intermediate phase, cannot drive more than one unrelated person in the car. I cannot remember exactly how many, but there was a group of teens in the car while the young driver was driving. So there was more than one unrelated person in the car, obviously, and he was obviously distracted. So again, that increases the chances of a event that would cause a fatality. The second thing I wanted to reinforce is the importance of having a relationship with your teen and having an understanding that it is okay for them, if they feel uncomfortable riding in a car, you can come up with a system. Obviously, this goes beyond Hunter's story. This is just in general, with a system where they can communicate with you or a trusted adult when they do feel uncomfortable. It could be a password. It could be a phrase. It could be anything. A lot of kids, especially teenagers, when they are with a group of other children their age, with their peers, it's hard for them to say no. There's a lot of peer pressure. It might be hard for them to get themselves out of a situation, but everybody now has a phone. They can send it by text. You can have a password, a phrase, a secret phrase that kind of lets them tell you that they may not feel safe in a certain situation, that it is time for somebody safe to come and get them, to help them out of a situation. So those are two things, just to remind everyone about the intermediate phase, about inexperienced drivers being distracted by their peers, and peer pressure that could also happen. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Kind of heavy stuff, isn't it? Okay, so you guys have been really good listeners. Thank you. And we've just got a few more minutes left. So what we'll do is we'll talk about the top 10 tips for keeping teen and drivers and passengers safe. One is obviously buckle up, you as well. And you know what? Not just to buckle up you yourself or other passengers. It's also to be careful that there might be other projectiles in the vehicle itself. It could be heavy sports equipment. It could be heavy tools. It could be a heavy backpack, a book bag. Things that are not restrained other than a human body could also be a potential projectile that can injure somebody in sudden changes of momentum or crash. Set an example. You are the number one influencer. Number 3, talk about how to drive distraction-free. Not just be an example, but also talk about it. Why it's important to have 2 hands on the wheel, why it's important to have your eyes on the road, your mind on your task, your ears alert. Talk about how to be aware and a vocal passenger, meaning speak up, feel comfortable. Give them tools to help them. If they notice that the driver is reaching for their phone, tell them it's okay to offer the driver, hey, can I make that call for you? Did you want me to, text someone for you? Or can I just help them develop a relationship and trust who is going to be driving them? Know the driver. Choose safety over convenience. Always be able to trust that driver as a parent. Know and follow GDL laws. Practice. You can't be an expert driver overnight, and definitely day and night driving, and also take them out in different weather conditions and different scenarios. Play out different scenarios, merging into traffic, on and off the ramp, on an interstate or onto New Circle Road. Talk to other parents about your expectations when you're not there, meaning the other parents of the child that might be driving your child or riding with your child. Drowsy driving is distracted driving. A lot of folks don't realize that. It's not so much impaired, it is impaired driving as well. And all impaired driving is distracted driving. And then advocate for GDL laws in your teen's school. One last video.
Dear Connor, having the gift of being your mom is truly something I will treasure forever. There are so many things I really want to share with you. I remember the day you were born. Your 10 perfect fingers and toes could keep me entertained in awe for hours. Your personality was large and you had a way of drawing people in. I remember when you were learning to say please and thank you and delighted everyone with your sweet manners. As a mom, I took my job of teaching you right from wrong very seriously. After all, I wanted to give you the tools to be successful as you grew up. If only I had driven as I expected you to drive and spoken up as a passenger. Maybe, just maybe, you would still be here. I used my phone, I ate snacks, I dug in my purse, and I drank coffee, all while driving my precious children, when we really should be the driver we want our kids to be. Quite honestly, Connor, I would give anything to go back and have these discussions with you. I missed my opportunity. Now I live with the fact that you, my precious son, has lost his life to something so completely preventable because you chose not to wear your seatbelt and you didn't know the type of driver you got in the car with. Connor, I promise to share this with other parents so that they can have these life-saving conversations with their children before it's too late.
Okay, so she goes on about it's just a letter that she wrote about things that she wishes she could have done. But I wanted to share this little video with you and then just let you know that if you do want to delve more with Under Your Influence Impact Teen Driver, they do have podcasts through Apple Podcasts. And it kind of has stories about, teen drivers, and you can just kind of gives you another perspective of other experiences. Car crashes are 100% preventable on both sides, either the person that's driving or the person receiving the brunt of it. Thank you so much for your interest in this. This is our phone number if you have any questions or would like a presentation for your teens. And I think am I on time? Yep, exactly, 12:50. Zeta.